Hey babes, welcome to Stoned and Horny, the podcast all about exploring and expanding your knowledge in sex and cannabis with experts and friends. I'm your host, Hayley Herms, and today we're talking about being cannasexual, elevated intimacy, empowerment retreats, and so much more with our special guest and pleasure/intimacy coach, Ashley Manta. Let's get into it.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm so excited. You're like an expert of sex. But what's great is like what I loved when I found you on Instagram, I was like, oh, like her sex is like kind of like all about like cannabis and stuff like that. So before we get into that, I want to ask you, like, how did your love for cannabis and sex begin? Just like throw it back to the basics for a second, where it all began.
Way back in the beginning.
Okay.
So I grew up in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
which is so different than California.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard anyone be like, I'm from Pennsylvania. So like, what's that like?
There's a lot of conservative Christians who are very shut down about sex.
God, it's one of those states that it's like abstinence. Like
a lot of
that kind
abstinence, a lot of
No!
like purity pledges.
No, not the purity pledges.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I grew up in this backwoods part of central Pennsylvania where like
Okay.
people recreationally went cow tipping. Like that was the kind of world that I grew up in, and I hated it. I felt so like I was not my place. I did not. I was a square peg in a round hole. Nothing about that place fit me. And so as soon as I graduated, I went to college in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
That was better.
Okay.
I actually like got to meet black and brown people for like kind of the first time.
Amazing, which everyone should.
You know, it's important to
Was
have
it like
little
a culture shock?
I was so hungry for it. It didn't come across as a shock, but it was definitely different.
Okay.
Like it was so nice to not just be surrounded by the same people with the same very narrow, pro-conservative views on the world. Like it was beautiful and diverse and interesting, and people were worldly and had seen things.
Yes.
So that was a win. The funny thing was I was actually at a Catholic school.
Okay.
So still somewhat buttoned up around sex.
Okay.
2 years later, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I transferred to a state school in Westchester, which is a suburb of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I found the women's center. I did the vagina monologues. I started taking sexuality classes through nursing, sociology, psychology, and just I was so hungry for sexual knowledge. Like I was always the awkward one who talked about sex too much, but once I got to college, I was able to actually supplant that curiosity with knowledge.
Love it. Wow, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank
oh my.
you.
So then when did cannabis come in?
So that's the funny thing. I was anti-cannabis growing up.
No.
In this very conservative area. I was a dare kid. Like I bought into the
No.
hype that like all drugs were bad and cannabis is as bad as heroin and like all of this stuff. And so when I was in grad school studying philosophy, everyone in my grad cohort smoked weed, including the professors, obviously. So that was the first time I smoked when I was like 22.
What was your first experience like?
It was magical.
Good. Everyone's so different.
It's true. And so thankfully my cohort was a bunch of very loving, supportive people who wanted to create a safe space for me. I smoked out of a gravity bong. I got stoned off my ass.
Yo, that's
and
intense.
I sat on this love sack watching Empire Records and just like feeling like I was in a cocoon. And I'm like, this is amazing. I can't believe nobody ever told me about this.
Yes.
So I'm talking about sex, but mostly from like a sexual trauma lens. Like I was a
Okay.
rape crisis counselor, domestic violence crisis counselor. I was a victim advocate for the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. And I had my own trauma, and which led to me having pain with penetration for my entire adult life. So fast forward to me moving to California in 2013, I had access to medical cannabis for the first time. And in 2014, I found a company that was making a THC-infused oil for your pussy.
Wow.
And
okay.
It was amazing. It was originally conceptualized as something that was for postmenopausal folks for like dryness and tissue atrophy and things like that. But I found it was really helpful for me with my pain with penetration. It eliminated it.
Wow.
And my brain went,
Oh my God. Do you remember what company it was?
Euphoria.
Oh, What? I didn't know they were. I knew they'd been around, but I didn't know they'd been around for like that many. Like, wow.
I got in on the ground floor with them. Like, I was up at the founder's place, like in Topanga, filling bottles in his backyard. Like,
that's incredible.
It was such a match made in heaven, and it really changed the game for me. I had penetrative sex without pain. I was having stronger, more accessible orgasms, and I kind of looked around the realm of sexuality professionals, and no one was talking about sex and cannabis back then.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not.
And in fact, I had people that were like, oh, you can't talk about sex and weed. Like, no one will ever take you seriously. That's going to kill your career. And I was like, fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. And turns out it has not.
Exactly. That's what happened to me. People are like, it's going to ruin your modeling career. Like, it's so crass and lewd, and like, that's not something you talk about. And one of the whole reasons, and I say it all the time, but one of the main reasons I created this podcast, because I found out, especially millennial women were not talking to their friends about sex.
Yeah.
And I was just like you, where you're like, I was the weird friend just talking about sex like way too much. So when people wanted to talk about it, I was the person they came to, almost like godmother willow tree of sex, like just like here for the people. So I totally get it. And so I tried to hide my cannabis use. I tried to hide like shroom and like just like anything like that, because I was like, don't want to lose my career. And now like my modeling agency reaches out to me and like, hey, this cannabis company wants you to shoot like lifestyle with them.
Nice.
So you know what I mean? The industry. And that was literally just in the past like 5 years. Like, what a transformation.
Wow.
And it's still, I will say, like, I do review contracts where like brands I work with, and it'll be like, no drugs, this and that, and cannabis will be included. And I have to like stand firm on that. And I'll email back and be like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but I am a cannabis user. I do talk about it on my page. I even have cannabis sponsors. Like, this is something like I integrally, or with my integrity, whatever the word is, cannot compromise on this. Like, and most brands have been really cool about it. They're like, oh yeah, like no problem. I've never had a brand like have like a major problem with it, but definitely like within like 3 to 5 years ago, it was like, no, like, got to keep this on the down low, hush, hush, hush. So then you just like didn't care. You were just like, I'm going to just fuck it. Like, the people need this. Like, I needed it. So yeah.
It was really important to me to come at sex and cannabis, not from this very like Cosmo style stoned sex version, but like from a trauma informed, body positive, queer inclusive lens.
Yes.
That was really aimed originally at survivors, but also like just people who wanted to address the things that were getting in the way of pleasure, connection, and intimacy.
And I love that, because unfortunately, survivors, there's so many, but as we know, there's so much that doesn't go reported.
Absolutely.
And so I just think like, I love that it's mostly through the lens of like a survivor, because a lot of women are survivors and people have no idea.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. And I love that that's like some of your background, because that makes it, I feel like that would make me, if I was your client, I'd feel extra safe and like extra like held and supported. So I love that. And we'll get into like some more of like the other stuff of things that you do, because you're amazing.
Thank you.
So like through this journey, when did you coin and come up with the term cannasexual? And like, can you like tell the people what that means and just go in?
Cannasexual really kind of came to me shortly after I found Foria and started working with them a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm doing this thing. I should come up with a word for it. Like, I was just kind of dipping a toe into marketing, and I'm like, this needs a definition. I need a moniker. And so I put a Facebook poll up. I was like, what do you guys like? Do you like canna pleasure, pussy, sex? I had like a bunch, and everybody liked Cannasexual. And I was like, all right, that's the one, Cannasexual. And so it refers to mindfully and deliberately combining sex and cannabis to deepen intimacy and enhance pleasure, whether you're solo or partnered. A lot of people are like, oh, like sex and cannabis, that doesn't apply to me. I'm single. I'm single, motherfuckers. Like,
me too. So now I need to get on the wave
all the time. I masturbate daily, and cannabis is always involved. So you still use that same, like, is it a lube, an oil, and it's
like
an oil?
Okay.
So Foria actually got out of the THC game. They're now CBD only.
Okay.
And so while I love them, I have moved on to other THC players. But really, any oil-based tincture that you could buy at a dispensary. Like THC is the more important cannabinoid when it comes to sex and cannabis for topicals, at least.
Okay.
Like THC is a vasodilator, brings more blood flow to the area. It makes it more sensitive, more like pleasurable when you touch and explore. And so yeah, you apply it like a marinade. Okay. Not like a lube. Lube, it's like it's dry. You want it to be slicker. You add lube. You keep going.
Okay.
With an oil, you need to take your vulva.
Yes. And okay, so right now, if you are listening and you are not watching, go to our YouTube channel, Stoned and Horny. She has a vulva vagina puppet here, and she's going to get like deep into details. So I encourage you to go for this section, go to our YouTube channel. But keep going.
So this is my vulva puppet, Lilith.
Yes.
She has been with me for almost 10 years now. And so anytime you are applying oil to the vulva, you want it to go all over, like under the clitoral hood, above the clit, between the inner and outer labia, all around the vaginal opening, and just let it sit for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Like it needs time to work the magic.
Okay.
So once that happens,
okay,
you are going to experience more access to pleasure, deeper feelings of sensation, less discomfort if you're feeling any discomfort. And I find both more powerful orgasms and more easily accessible orgasms.
Ooh, it feels so exciting. So do you put it like in you too? Like when you're like fingering yourself, can you like have it on your fingers or like?
Yes.
Okay. So, oh my God.
You can also use suppositories.
What
So there's sort of these bullet shaped little solid oil suppositories, and you insert them vaginally or anally or both. And I have a very sensitive cervix, so I don't know if you've ever had a partner who is longer than you are deep.
Oh yeah,
you get that like punched in the stomach feeling.
Yes,
and it's really uncomfortable. So suppositories actually help with that discomfort as well.
And like, so you just shove it up there. Does it like? Is there any like fluid or like?
It melts into an oil, and so it mostly absorbs, but you may like have a little bit of oil come out. And so I always recommend that people across the board use a waterproof blanket underneath them when they're having sex.
Okay.
Just to kind of catch any fluids that may arise.
Okay. A waterproof one? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or a towel if you have nothing else. A towel will suffice, but
got it.
If you want to be a pro.
So you marinate it. You just like use as much as like not as much as possible, but like you're not being skimpy with it.
You're not being skimpy with it.
Okay, got it. Noted. I'm gonna try this. I think I have a goodie bag of oil somewhere. So you've convinced me.
I look forward to updates.
So then what came next after you had the Cannasexual term? Because we're gonna get into all this, but you have a book, you do retreats, you have clients. So what was the next like natural flow for you after you're like, okay, I have Cannasexual now. Yeah. What happened next?
So I was working at the Pleasure Chest, which is amazing. I learned so much about toys and lubes and lotions and potions and accessories. I got to know a lot of folks in the adult industry and in the novelty industry, like manufacturers, lube companies, adult performers, and that has been such an amazing professional family to be a part of.
Yes, doll entertainers, I swear to God, are like the nicest people.
Yes.
Like sex workers in general, they're some of like the nicest people you'll ever meet.
The nicest people. In fact, just yesterday I had brunch with Nina Hartley. She's a really good friend. We've been friends for almost 10 years now, and she's also very pro cannabis, which is so fun. And so I got to know a lot of people, and then I had some stuff going on in my personal life in 2015 where I needed to leave my job.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, my PTSD is really bad. I had a lot of like stuff coming up from my past trauma. And so I quit, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I guess I'm going to try to work for myself. And so I went to my very first cannabis business expo in LA in September of 2015.
Interesting. So like you went as a goer, or you had like your own tent and stuff?
I went as an attendee. Okay. In fact, I went on a scholarship from a women's cannabis networking organization called Women Grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, this is amazing.
It was so cool. So really, really big things happened. 3 really big things happened at that conference. One is they had a social media contest that I won.
Okay.
The reason I won the social media contest was because Melissa Etheridge was there, and I got her to sign some Women Grow swag and then posted it on my Instagram, and they were like, that's the winner.
Yeah, amazing.
And at the same conference, I met the editor of Leafly.
Oh,
and
incredible.
I was like, yeah, I'm a sex educator. I talk about sex and cannabis. And 2 weeks later, he offered me a twice monthly column for Leafly. And that was the beginning of like Cannasexual professionally. I went from 2 articles a month to 4 articles a month. Then Dope Magazine came in. They were like, we want you to write about your life once a week. So now I'm writing 8 articles a month. I published 200 articles in my first 2 years in the industry.
Wow. That is incredible. So like naturally you had to write a book.
I had to write a book. I had been networking heavily, and the editor of Mary Jane, which is Snoop Dogg's media company.
Okay.
Noah Rubin, who is amazing, just like a lovely human. He has a book that just came out called How We Roll that he quoted me in.
That's hilarious. I love that. Okay.
It's all about blunts and joints and how smoking is like such a really beautiful community activity and like how to do it and all. It's a great book. Highly recommend. But he approached me and he was like, hey, Mary Jane's going to come out with a series of 3 books called The CBD Solution, and each one's going to be on a different topic. We want you to write the sex book. Okay. And I was like, really? Yes. Okay, let's do this. And so they were like, great. The deadline's in 3 weeks.
Shut up.
Yeah.
No. And if you like, okay, again, if you're watching our YouTube channel, we have the book right here. It's called The CBD Solution. And like she said, it's the sex version. It's so gorgeous. It also looks like it could be just like a great coffee table. Like
the publisher very much makes aesthetically pleasing books. It's Chronicle Books.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. And like 3 weeks, and there's a lot of info in here. This is not just like a little book, and it's small type. Mm-hmm. Well, oh my God, wow, I love all the pictures.
They did some great graphic design, and I thank goodness all of my friends are experts. Like every fucking person in my email list that had letters after their name, I sent out like an SOS email. I'm like, I need quotes now. This is not a drill.
Yes.
So luckily they all got back to me.
Yeah.
So I've got a Harvard MD. I have nurses. I have psychologists. I have therapists. I have, cannabis, bud tending, sommeliers. Like I really wanted to hit heavy with the knowledge for this book.
Yeah, all the way around. And I haven't read it, but I'm going to read it because this is like incredible. Where can people buy it?
Anywhere. Amazon.
I saw even Urban Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters is carrying
this.
it.
Urban freaking Outfitters is carrying Ashley's book. So it's freaking good. I'm just like looking right now, just like briefly, it's like reimagine partnered sex, their body love, creating a vibration of self-love. Like there is so many helpful things in here, and I'm just like flipping through it. So I know I haven't read it yet. I'm going to get on that, but I would highly suggest, if you're listening, to check out the book, The CBD Solution. And can you just give us like an overview of like, I know it's cannabis and sex, but can you give a little overview of some of the like your favorite things in the book that you talk about?
Absolutely. That book was really designed with beginners in mind, both cannabis beginners and sexuality beginners. And so many of us received shitty sex ed that was abstinence only and not pleasure focused. So I go into pleasure anatomy. I have solo sex. I have partnered sex. I have just like the things that you didn't learn in sex ed, like how to negotiate and ask for what you want.
Okay, so I definitely need the book now. Definitely need the book because I have like this problem. Like it'll take me like a year or two to finally like be like, you don't make me come.
Oh, girl, I got you. Okay. We are going to workshop that. Okay. You will be like, okay, this is how I want it, and this is how I want it.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm going to run and go get a copy after this. So what else are you diving deep in there?
I got really into troubleshooting. Okay. So people deal with various things. I have herpes. So one of the things I talk about is how to disclose a positive STI status to a partner, which is
I love that.
Something that way more of us need to be able to have in our vocabularies, but so few of us even talk about sex with STIs and safer sex. Like it's so troubling. Like I've been out in the Tinder world, and I am just genuinely shocked that these guys on Tinder are just like, yeah, not only do I not want to wear a condom, but it doesn't even like come up to talk about testing. And I'm like, dude, did you are you not paying attention? Like,
it's a weird world we live in. And like guys will just be like, and they're like kind of shocked when you're like, no, like I need you to use a condom. And they're like, whoa, like really? Like, and you're like, well, and then like, when's the last time you got tested? Like my ex, like he would not get tested. And I know he like hadn't been with anyone else, this or that. But like I really wanted him to get tested because at one point I found out I had hepatitis C and I was trying to like backtrack where it came from. I had been in this monogamous relationship. I had no reason. I definitely didn't think he was cheating or anything like that. And I was like, so where did it come from? And like what partner or what year? And going back not only in my medical records and this, that, I came to find out it was from a fucking tattoo I got from a shitty tattoo I got when I was underage at a tattoo shop. And it had actually come up in test results in like 2017 and none of my doctors had told me until like 2 or 3 years ago. They're like, oh, like we're getting like traces, but like we don't think you have it. So I got tested like 3 different times. They're like, oh yeah, this is old. And when they went back and back and back and back, 2017, there it was. And I was like, what the fuck was I doing in 2017? And I was like, well, this, that. I was like, I wasn't having sex with it. And then I was like, oh my God. Like, that's when I got that, like, shady, sketchy tattoo. And that was the only thing I could narrow it down to. So I definitely think, because you, like, even if it wasn't sexually transmitted with tattoos, and I think a big thing we don't talk about is oral STDs.
Oh my God, seriously.
Like people, I think on one of these episodes I was with my friends, or maybe this was an outer conversation. I can't remember. Maybe a viewer will tell me. We were talking about like who sucks dick with condoms on. And I was like, I just want to say like it's different because like one of the girls committed relationship, this and that. So of course they don't use condoms. But I'm like, I think we need to encourage more people or at least let them know that like STDs go further than just like vaginally or on your penis. Like you can literally get chlamydia of the throat.
You absolutely can. You can have people. I've had so many people when I say I have herpes, they'll be like, oh, that's fine. And then over the course of like 5 minutes later, they'll be like, well, I get cold sores sometimes. And I'm like, that's herpes, bro. Yeah. Like if I didn't have herpes and you went down on me, like you could give me vaginal herpes when you have a cold sore. Like that's how that works. Although there's this really cool product that just came out that has FDA clearance. It's called Laurels.
Okay.
It is a wearable dental dam. Like they look like panties, but it's latex. So you can have protected oral.
Shut up.
And it's actually, they're cute. They're really
cute.
Instagram? They do have an Instagram.
Okay, Laurel.
Yeah, I think it's My Laurels on Instagram. Laurels. We'll double check.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm going to be doing a giveaway with them later this month. So make sure you check out my IG. And yeah, it's really, really cool. And they're stretchy. Like they fit me. So
yes, I love that. Yeah. Oh my God. And their size include. We love that. They've really actually thought about it.
Yes, they definitely
did. That's
did.
amazing. So then what came first, the book or your women's retreats? Okay, I'm going to pull up my phone because I have the name of it, but it's a mouthful. So here we go. You're the creator of Activating Your Cosmic Pussy. It's a women's empowerment retreat.
Yes.
Okay.
So technically the book came first.
Okay.
But separately. Like I have been studying Betty Dodson's work.
Okay. Who's Betty Dodson?
Betty Dodson. Oh, I'm so excited to introduce you to her. Okay. She is the grandmother of masturbation. She passed away in 2020 at the age of 91.
Wow.
She, back in the 70s, was hosting these retreats in her apartment in Manhattan called Body Sex. And it was conducted fully in the nude, and women would come, get naked, sit in a circle, look at their pussies in hand mirrors, and buzz off with Hitachis.
I think I've seen this woman.
Yes, she was on Goop.
Okay, I think that's where like I saw it or something. But okay, keep going. Sorry.
So I had read her books when I was in high school. Like she's a legend, and I got to meet her in 2014. She and her business partner Carlin Ross took an interest in me, which I was so grateful for. And so Betty was always a proponent of sex and cannabis. Like her memoir, she talks about using cannabis back in the 70s and how amazing it was. So I interviewed her for Dope Magazine in like 2017 or 2018. And in 2019, she had a retreat for her 90th birthday at a really beautiful retreat center in upstate New York. And she had women from all over the world, Israel, Argentina, Poland, all over the US and Canada. And we all came together to celebrate her. And then we all came together. Like, we had erotic recess.
Like, quite literally.
Every night for 2 hours. We were all just naked, buzzing off together.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
And it was so transformative and so connective that, like, these women that I had never met, by the end of the week, I felt like they were my sisters.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do this. And then COVID happened.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, well, I can't do it in person. What am I going to do? And I wanted to do body sex-esque things without necessarily, like, I don't want to be Betty. I want to be me.
Yes.
And I want to honor Betty through my own work. And so Activating Your Cosmic Pussy was born. I was like, what if I did like a 7 or 8 week online intensive that was about sex magic and loving your pussy and feeling embodied and asking for what you want and not being ashamed of your desires and releasing limiting beliefs and plant medicine. And I have had 30 women go through the program in the last 2 years.
Wow.
I just did what we called Cosmic Embodiment with Dr. Shannon Chavez in Hawaii last month.
Yes, we love Dr. Chavez.
Oh, she's
if
so
you
good.
haven't seen it, make sure you go back to season 1. We had her on here. I learned, like, she blew my fucking mind. Like,
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's absolutely brilliant. You know, she's a licensed psychologist. She's so passionate about sexuality. She did a body sex retreat with Betty back in like 2011.
iconic.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
So we have been doing in-person retreats since COVID has moved to a different phase of, you know, not being in lockdown anymore. But the Cosmic Pussy idea was really just about empowering women in their sexuality. And I'm a witch. I practice magic. I identify as a pagan. I have this like badass
I love that.
witchy tattoo. Like, I practice manifesting with my pleasure and my orgasms all the time.
Okay, so I was gonna say this, okay, sex magic. You mentioned it, and I didn't expect this to be like a topic, but can we talk about that for a
We
second?
absolutely can talk about that.
I don't think people talk about sex magic enough because I want you to explain what sex magic could entail because I think you could be better at it. But as far as I've done, I've only tried to like cast spells with my orgasms, but I don't know if it's just like you're thinking about it or like what it is. But I also feel like I've seen like my best friend. Oh, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't air her out like this, but people really won't. She's not on social media. So anyways, but like I swear to God, one time she was having sex with a guy and I was like, I think he's using sex magic on you because there was like things she couldn't explain and like feelings and this and that. And I was like, I am pretty sure like you're under like a sexual sex spell. And I got super obsessed with and that was just like, I didn't know sex magic was a real thing. This was like a couple years ago. And like during the pandemic, I typed in like sex magic and it was, and I consider myself a witch too.
Yay.
And so like, I didn't dive too deep into it, but I was like, oh, I'm fucking on to something.
Oh yeah.
So like, where did you learn about sex magic and how like tell us a little more about that?
So I think I've always been a witch, but I was in denial because I was so
Your upbringing.
Catholic.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of an atheist for a while. And then I was like, okay, but what if I was actually magical? And so back in like 2016, I made a friend who was very witchy and we created a coven in LA and we were doing like rituals and we were pulling cards and we were playing with crystals and we were using cannabis to get into altered states. And around the same time, I started dating someone who was very into the Tantra world. Okay. And Tantra is not synonymous for sex magic, but there's a lot of overlap.
Okay.
So energetics and playing with polarity and really like gazing into each other's eyes and souls and connecting on a soul level and using that connection and that energy to just launch yourself into outer space.
Yes.
So we did that a lot, and we did mushrooms for the first time together. I did acid for the first time with him. I did MDMA for the first time with him, and we did a lot of those things over the time that we were together. And I saw things, and I experienced things, and I I knew things. I renewed knowledge of things that I just would not have had access to otherwise.
I love that.
I did 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. Like I went far and deep, and I was amazed at the things that I was able to manifest, the things that I was able to intuit. I could read people really well. Like I always had that, and I think some of that's like trauma, right? Because like I grew up with a narcissist alcoholic mother. So
oh my God, my dad.
Same. Love that wounding. So like you can go into a room and you know when someone's upset, and you know how to make sure that like you can stay kind of safe in that space, and how to placate them. And so some of it's trauma, but some of it I think really is like intuition and past life stuff. And so all of those gifts together and all of the things that I learned with my ex, I was able to create experiences with him and on my own that were transcendent. Ooh. And I wanted people to be able to access that, because I'm like, look, if this former Catholic girl from the middle of fucking nowhere, Pennsylvania, can do these things, and now I'm at parties in Malibu, and I've got a book deal that's 5 figures, and I'm in Forbes and Newsweek and CNN and fucking Huffington Post, like, if I can do this, anybody can do this.
Yeah.
So Cosmic Pussy was born.
Yes. And like, so the online class you said was like 7 to 8 weeks. What is that, like once a week?
Once a week for like 90 minutes or so, usually on Thursdays.
Got it.
And we've had women in Hawaii. We've had women on the East Coast. Haven't had international yet, but I suspect that will be soon.
Okay.
And then we were all kind of hungry for in-person. And so that was where Shannon and I, this past year, like, we've known each other for years, but this year we really started hanging out a lot.
Yes.
And she has some beautiful ideas about retreats, and she has access to a property that we're actually going to be hanging out at this weekend. And she was like, what if we did in-person retreats? Like, I want to do this with you. I want to help. I want to support what you're up to. And I was like, fuck yeah. So we did Hawaii together. It was so magical. I was there for 16 days. The retreat was only 4 nights, but
I mean, still.
It was great. Like, she flew out a few days in advance. We went all over the Big Island. We were on this beautiful farm up in the mountains on the Hilo side.
Oh my God.
All the meals were farm to table.
Yes.
We did erotic recess out on this platform in the middle of the forest while it was pouring down rain.
Shut up.
I had so many orgasms. We all had so many orgasms. I went out naked into the rain and just like let the rain fall on my body, and
that sounds so magical and beautiful.
It was incredible. We also went to the volcano, which is erupting right now. We got to watch the earth give birth to itself in real time and do this whole release ritual with the volcano.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It was next level fucking epic.
And so like, can you kind of like tell a little more about like erotic recess?
Yes.
Like, is there like rules? Is like how, like, because I mean, I imagine everyone there is going to be consensual and this and that and the third, like no one's trying to get like too crazy. So, but like, you know, I imagine all these women get together. You want to make it a safe environment. Like
Absolutely.
like, can you give us a little?
Yes.
I don't want to like spoil anything.
No. I want
like,
people to know what they're getting into if they
Okay.
choose to go down that road. So consent is the name of the game for me. Like it begins and ends with consent. And so I always treat anything at my workshops as it's a get to, not a have to.
Oh, love it.
If you want to just sit in the corner, that's fine. If you want to be fully clothed, that's fine. No one's going to judge you. Your invitation is to get naked to your comfort level and to explore your body for pleasure. This is all we're doing for the next hour. You don't have to masturbate the whole time. The goal is not to get off as much as you can. The goal is to feel good for an hour, whatever that looks like for you. Some people did yoga for parts of it. I went out into the rain and let the droplets kiss my skin. I had this whole like elaborate fantasy about a bamboo stalk that was really interesting.
Okay.
It was like there was all this bamboo right next to the platform, and there was this one branch that was kind of coming into the space and like right over my head. And I'm like, what if this bamboo tree is trying to fuck me? Like,
Right? Were you shrooming at all or anything?
I was not. This
Oh my
was
God,
all
I
just
love
cannabis.
this. Okay, it was just because you're so happy. The endorphins are running.
The endorphins are running. I was feeling very connected to the land and the whole group. And so it's all about your own pleasure, though. Like, it's not an orgy. We're not playing with each other.
Yes.
It's really about feeling empowered to explore your pleasure on your terms and to just do that. Like so many of us, even myself, like when I'm home, sometimes 5 minutes, I squeak one out and I go to bed.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Dr. Chavez last time she was here was telling you, she's like, yeah, you shouldn't really be like, you know, just like getting over it with it. Like not all the time, you know, but like, I was like, yeah, I just like to like do it, get it over. I'm like moving on. She's like, it's like so sacred and there's so much more going on. And like, but so you say like an hour. So is that just like a physical happiness and endorphins? Like you're just like, cause I like truly couldn't imagine like trying to masturbate for an hour.
Right.
But like, I imagine it can be done.
It can absolutely be done. I mean, really for most of us, especially, you know, cis women, we need at least 20 minutes to even get to the point where we're fully warmed up.
Okay.
So like touching just any part of your body for pleasure. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go straight to genitals. We often don't want our partners to go straight to our genitals, right? Like, how about you kiss me? How about like we rub against each other?
So
like,
true.
Right?
So why wouldn't you do
So
that?
why do we go straight to our genitals? Like,
yeah.
So when you really take the time to make it a sacred practice, when you slow down and realize that you are worth the effort and the time spent off of your phone, off of social media, like just on you, it really becomes a relationship with yourself, which is the most important and powerful relationship you'll ever have anyway.
Yeah.
So like really, it sounds so cheesy, but like making love to yourself.
Yeah.
And all of the things, you know, I would rub my chest, I would grind my hips, I would vocalize. Like so often, especially like if you live in an apartment or with roommates, we masturbate silently. Like we're not making noise. Like you kind of, even when you're with a partner, you're kind of biting down on the pillow. But to be in the woods where there's nobody for miles, like I was screaming.
Yeah.
And it was so liberating.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like that hasn't happened to me in a long time. But with the book and with the advice, I'm gonna take it. Besides erotic erotic recess? Fucking love that term, by the way.
That's all Betty.
Oh God, yes, Betty. I don't know you, but I love you. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Betty.
Okay, so then when erotic recess isn't happening, what are some other things you're doing?
Oh God, we did so many things. We did vulva gazing, so that's another Betty homage.
Okay.
So everyone sits in a circle and each person takes their turn in sort of the lead part of the circle where they have a hand mirror and a big light and me.
Okay.
And we look at your pussy together.
Okay.
And I describe what I see in the most flowery, loving, celebratory terms.
Wow.
Because so many of us have only ever had our vulvas looked at by partners and like healthcare professionals. Yeah. Right?
Or like, not even ourselves. Like there's that whole like scene with like Sex in the City where like Charlotte's like, I've never looked at my vagina. I'm scared. And everyone else at the table is like, you've never looked at your vagina? And like, but I couldn't imagine like sitting around a circle with people and like doing that. But if like everyone's doing that, then I might like feel a little more comfortable.
Everyone's doing it. And the first thing we do is we look at Betty's sketches. She was a classically trained artist.
Ooh.
So she has all of these amazing vulva sketches.
Pop off, Betty.
Oh, she's such a legend. Like everyone should know who Betty Dodson is.
Oh, they will after this.
They will after this. So, you know, we look at her sketches first and you see all these different styles of vulvas. And then I show mine. I'm like, I'm not going to make you guys go first. Like I will be the one to be like, here you go. This is what it looks like. I got a fupa.
Does someone describe yours?
I usually describe my own because like I've
so you can show an example.
Developed a language for it at this point.
Got it.
We're
oh my God,
friends.
I love that. Yes.
But yeah, and like the first body sex retreat I ever went to, I was having a herpes outbreak at the time. And so I was like, this is what herpes looks like. And people are like, that's it? It's just a little rash. I'm like, yeah, I know. People freak the fuck out about it. And it's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
But so I didn't at this retreat. I haven't had an outbreak in ages, but it was really cool. And then Shannon did hers, and then we all went around the circle and each person took their turn, and they loved hearing it described in art, like in architectural terms.
Yeah.
As something that is beautiful to behold, something that is worthy of celebration. And not because I'm trying to fuck you, but just because it's awesome.
Yeah. And you also do one-on-one coaching as well, correct?
I do.
And so can that be for partners or you just do solos?
I will do women or couples. Most of my clients right now are couples, but I do have a couple of single women.
And what's it like? So what I posted on Instagram earlier, I'll look and see if there's any more last minute questions, but I said, if you could ask like a sex therapist, coach, whoever, like, you know, of your nature, a question, what would it be? And one of the guys asked, like, why do guys like fail to get women off so often? Like, it's such a thing we hear, like guys can never, like this and like, why do you think that with all your background knowledge?
I think it's because we're afraid to talk about sex. We
Okay.
think that if to be sexually skilled means that you can just intuit what your partner wants and no
Yes.
words need to be spoken. And I think that is flawed.
Okay.
I think the best thing to do, and what I do with new partners, is I'm like, I am going to masturbate and you are going to watch.
Wow. I love that's a great idea.
Yes.
Totally. And that's fucking hot.
It's fucking hot. So I do it. Then I let them. Ooh, this trick I learned from Shannon. You put their hand on your hand, and I let them follow what my hand is doing.
That's really smart.
Right?
Do you think it's different though? Because like you're up and they're like, I don't know, like from a different view, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter as much. You know, they can get the general gist of the strokes and how I like it and how to take their time with it. And I have a position that I really like to do hand sex / genital massage in. So I make them sit in that position, or well, I'll show them first because I do hand jobs. Hand jobs are like my religion.
That's so funny because I felt like hand jobs died. So you must be like,
I am on a mission to make hand jobs cool again.
yes, that's fucking hilarious and iconic.
Thank you.
There's a method to the madness.
There absolutely is. It's really a meditation and pleasure. It's about not this like limp wrist, unenthusiastic, I'm just trying to get your dick hard so I can do something else.
Okay.
Thing that you see sometimes in porn, but often just like in popular media. Like I had a dude on Tinder the other day be like, what is this, high school? Like, oh, hand jobs, whatever. And I'm like, I'm so sorry that your views are so limited that you've never like thought outside the box.
Yeah.
That's a real bummer.
Oh my God, he's missing out.
Totally missing out. I actually co-created International Hand Job Day.
Shut up.
Yes, I did.
Yo.
With Dr. Timmery Schmidt, who's a sex coach and educator out of Philadelphia. It is July 21st.
July
So
21st
mark
is
your
National
calendars.
Hand Job Day.
Yes.
Iconic. When did you guys do that?
2017, 2018.
Oh, so it's been a thing.
It's been a thing.
Okay.
Because we were both kind of lamenting that the hand job is very much an undersung hero of the sex act
definitely.
world. And like pussy massage also.
I'm just going to be honest. I would probably have said the same thing. Like, hand job? What is this, high school?
Right.
But it's kind of like I feel like eating pussy at the same time because, like, me and my friend were just talking about, like, if you've only gotten eaten out and it sucked, you'd think like maybe I just don't like this. You don't like it might not occur like maybe it's the person
Totally.
and not you. Because I was like that for a long time. I was like, oh, I don't like getting head. It's like weird. And then when I finally got like the right head, I was like, oh my God, I want head all the time. You know?
Totally.
Okay, so it's not that the hand job is it's not overrated. It's very much just okay. It is underrated.
It's underrated
Sorry.
and people do it badly.
Okay.
Like this is not doing anything for anyone. You really have to do it with gusto.
Yes.
You know, be enthusiastic and passionate about what you're doing. If you're not
Yes.
excited to be doing the thing you're doing, don't fucking do it as far as I'm concerned.
True, exactly. Feel yourself out first.
Feel yourself out. If you're like, you know what, I'd really rather cuddle tonight, just say that.
Yeah.
Don't phone it in.
Yep.
You know?
I love that. Oh my God. Well, you are so talented and incredible.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, I just want to know, can you tell everybody
Yes.
where they can find you?
Absolutely.
Like plug anything and everything. This is your moment to shine.
Thank you. Well, it was such a joy to chat with you.
You too.
I am on Instagram at Cannasexual. That is probably my most active social media platform. I'm on Twitter kind of sporadically. I have an OnlyFans actually that I just started a couple months ago because I found out there's a lot of people of all genders who follow me on Instagram who want to fuck me that I'm not interested in but are willing to pay to see me naked, which is awesome.
We love that.
So super into that. So you can follow me on OnlyFans. You can go to my
Cannasexual.
Yeah, if you go to my Instagram, I have a link tree.
Oh,
so
perfect.
It's
all
on there.
Okay.
As well as links to sign up for the wait list for the next Activating Your Cosmic Pussy, which will be in January. Shannon and I are in the process of putting together a series of retreats called Pleasure Camp.
Okay. Oh, I fucking
that
love
was
that.
actually born in Hawaii. We were like, this is really what we're doing out here. We called it Cosmic Embodiment. We're like, it's kind of just pleasure camp. And that bought the domain. We're like, it's pleasure.camp. So you can sign up for the wait list to find out when our retreats are.
Oh my God, that's iconic.
I have online courses at elevatedintimacy.com that includes my hand sex class. I have a dirty talk class. I have something called the Attuned Lover Bundle, which is like a bunch of my pre-recorded workshops, including how to be a booty boss, another hand sex class, a little bit more dirty talk, and like some of my best tips and tricks on like lube and positions and things like that.
Okay, so those are just like solo videos people can buy?
Yes.
Like I could go like buy one right now?
Yes, you could.
Oh my God, I love that. And that's on your website?
It's on elevatedintimacy.com, and there's a link to it on my website, which is cannasexual.com.
Oh my God, incredible. Elevated Intimacy is your podcast,
yes,
correct?
So it's sort of on hiatus right now.
Okay.
But I do have 61 episodes out, so there's lots of stuff for you to go back and go through. I have lots of really amazing conversations with my friends who happen to be experts. Shannon was on talking about endometriosis. I had Destin Garrick, who's a men's work expert who wrote a book called The Evolved Masculine.
Ooh.
Highly recommend.
I love that.
Yeah.
The Evolved Masculine.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to just get that to keep at my house for men.
For sure.
Because that's amazing.
Yeah, because when I see them reading like The Way of the Superior Man, I'm like, ooh, red flag, red flag, red flag. But Destin's work is actually legit.
Okay.
and thoughtful and consensual and
yes,
all of the things that I love.
Because I will say, and I will agree, it's really hard for men to find places where they can be vulnerable with each other. I think that's so important. So I love that you mentioned him. Shout out Dustin. Thank you, Dustin, for doing the work for the men's community.
We appreciate you.
They need it. And if you're a man listening to this, I definitely think you should check out Dustin.
Definitely. And if you're curious more about sex magic, my friend Gabriella Herstick just came out with a book called Sacred Sex.
Ooh.
So I would definitely recommend checking that out as well.
Beautiful. And anything else you want to plug?
I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. You do a lot of things.
I do a lot of things.
But they're all amazing. And they're
you.
like... I'm gonna need the book, some dirty talk.
Come hit me up for coaching. That's the last one.
Yes, and then the coaching. She does one-on-one in couples. Yes, so I love that. Thank you so much, Ashley, for being here. That concludes today's episode of Stoned and Horny. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, if you want a chance to join the conversation, follow us on Instagram at Stoned and Horny Podcast. Leave a comment. And don't forget to follow us on all the other social medias to stay updated with the Stoned and Horny news. My name is Hayley Herms, and I'll see you on next week's episode.